Okay, Stefano, can you talk?
Konnichiwa. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. I'm very sorry I cannot be there in person. I am American, but I was born in Italy, and I now live in California. I'm very happy to be here with my old friend Bobby. We've known each other for 30 years. So we are very old. So please, Bobby-san is a very famous person.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Bobby Tohma. I'm in the business for the Japanese textile export since 1977, so almost 45 years plus in working in a Japanese fabric export, starting from United States and extending to Europe, and I'm still doing fabric sourcing for many brands worldwide, and have a relation with most of all Japanese denim mills. So then, go ahead, Stefano. You can start.
Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to share some slides. Edit. Yes. So today, about these few things here. Our personal experiences in the denim world. It's going to be very short, don't worry. Then we'll touch on the point when American denims arrived to Japan a few years back. Japanese textile with a very long tradition in indigo embraces denim, and within a few years they influenced the world. What happened between the 1980s and today, the evolution of the global market. We'll take a quick look at the market today, and we'll try to give our guess on what tomorrow might be like. And at the end, if there is time and if there is interest, we'll be happy to take your questions and try to give you some answers. So first, denim lands in Japan, probably not in the best circumstances, but when the GIs started going all over the world, they were taking the pieces of American culture with them, and of course jeans were part of their culture. And young people get attracted by things that are different or foreign, and so just like the rest of the world, even the Japanese youth really enjoyed the American lifestyle, but it really started to love jeans. The Japanese mills, which had centuries of experience and history in indigo, they had not made denim until then. But a few of the mills in Japan, seeing the big success that the product was having, they decided to try and do it also themselves. At the beginning, the first jeans brands were importing fabric from the US. And once there was the understanding that there was a good potential market there, then some of the Japanese mills decided to develop denim themselves. And within a few years, they learned how to make it so well that they became the best denim producers in the world. So this is a brief history. Maybe Bobby can explain to us what KD8 was and why it is so important.
Yeah. Japanese denim weavers basically start like a 19th century to early 20th century. All of these weavers are used to like a Kaihara or Showa, were started from indigo cotton kimono weavers. And so therefore they had they had experience with indigo, how to handle indigo. But what they couldn't, after the World War, or during the war, they found jeans. The jeans came in, made in USA, and they didn't, know how to make the like a white core, leave the core young center part of the yarn white, and dye the outside of the yarn in indigo. That made like effect of vintage or used denim. And then they had quite, they had the big deal of effort made. Finally, they imported or made rope dye machine, and then they started rope dyeing, like a Kaihara or Kurabo. That dyeing fast, and then we started producing actually denim like in 1970s. Both Kaihara and Kurabo could have released first denim in Japan, and then soon later, Japanese brand like Big John has born. Yes.
So listen, and in fact, you touch on a good point. Dyeing indigo for denim production is the opposite of what people would normally try to do, because in reality, it's a very bad type of dyeing. The old tradition of indigo dyeing was to try and get the dye as penetrated as possible, so that the whole yarn down to the core was perfectly blue, and that was giving you the depth and the color that people desired and they wanted. And so I assume that one of the big challenges back then was actually to try to make the dye different from what they were used to be. The weaving was not really the biggest problem, because it's a fairly simple weave. It's not as complex as some of the old Dobby textiles or jacquard textiles that people were making back then. So the big challenge was probably the dyeing, and Kurabo had to try several different iterations, and once they reached number 8, they decided that it was good enough to be sold, and that's why KD8 was the first commercially available denim fabric produced by Kurabo. In the area there in Kurashiki, there's quite a strong textile and brand tradition. The 3 pictures there, the one at the top is actually an old spinning mill from Kurabo. The second one, maybe you can spend a couple of words to explain to us who the Osaka 5 were, and so that people understand what happened in those days. Like you said, Big John was the first brand that sold jeans that became a famous jeans brand in the country.
Yeah, actually, the Kurabo has been developing a lot in slab uneven yarn, and in production of the jeans, actually in Japan it means reproduction of the old Levi. So they need to reproduce the old low-tech yarn by using more modern machinery. So therefore spinning is how to spin that kind of low-tech yarn on the modern spinning machine. And the second is how to dye, which is rope dye. And the engineer of like those Kurabo or Kaihara has been pretty strictly designed the denims by how the yarn size was, like 87s, 8, 7, 5, even 6, or how many threads per inch, like 66 or 65 or 67, or one thread per inch gives quite a big difference to the denim. So that they were trying to quite pretty exactly duplicate the Levi denim fabric from early 20th century. And that's where the Japanese denim has been basing on. And also, of course, there's a selvage. They are still keep on utilizing a lot of selvage machine and doing production of selvage denim. Yeah.
For this. In fact, there was an urban legend that was circulating for many years in Europe and in the States, and they were saying that the Japanese were making this beautiful denim because they had bought all the shuttle looms from Levi's, and it was all made up, of course, because Levi's never owned one single loom, and the Japanese never produced with American looms. They were all made by, if I'm correct, they were all made by Toyota in Japan. The key for the success was the extreme attention to detail that those Japanese technicians dedicated into trying to replicate perfectly the old original denim, which even the American mills could not do anymore. And in fact, several years ago, maybe about 20 years ago, at Levi's, I was trying to create some fabrics for our LVC line, which was the reproduction of the old denims. And we had the anniversary jean, we had the Nevada jean that were originally made with a fabric made by a mill called Amos Keg, which disappeared over maybe about 100 years ago. And we tried with a few different mills, but the only one that was really successful in reproducing exactly the character and the look and the feel of the old Amos Keg 9-ounce denim was Corabo. Spent a lot of time working with them, going back and forth. And I was working off a garment that we had bought at an auction, which we paid $54,000, if I remember right. And of course, I could not take a swatch and send it to Corabo. I could not take the garment and show it to them. So I kept going back and forth to the archives, and I was taking pictures, and I was counting the number of threads and trying to figure out exactly the construction of the fabric. And from the pictures and the description and my notes, these guys at Corabo, within a few trials, managed to make the most perfect copy of that fabric that I had ever seen. And I believe they still have it in production. I think it's the 418. Fantastic fabric. Anyways, thanks to that, Japanese mills started to gain a great reputation worldwide, and even the European top brands started to go to Japan to find the real denim that they couldn't find in the US or in Europe. I mentioned the Osaka 5, which is a number of brands out of Osaka, where Bobby-san lives, which were the first brands that became really successful, and they were all from that area. Maybe you can tell us a thing or two about these brands. And a couple of them got into trouble at the beginning with Levi's because they were so perfect in their production that they actually had the exact arcuate on the pocket, same as Levi's, and Levi's doesn't like that. So they all had to change. Please, Bobby.
Yeah. You mean Osaka 5 start from like Avis or Darussan or so? Yeah. And then maybe we should move to the premium denim.
Yes.
Denim moving from the US.
Yeah, so we can start from the West if you want.
Yeah.
What happened over the years since we got into this business is that we've seen a lot of changes in the industry. 20, 30 years ago, the key players in denim were all from Europe and from the US. So there was a number of mills all over Europe. There were mills in England, UK, Ireland, Portugal, Spain, Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Greece. So basically every major country in Europe had at least one or more denim mills. Italy had several, Germany had several. The US, they had the biggest denim mills in the world with Cone and Burlington and you name it, Avondale. And they were basically dominating the world. Japan was enjoying a fantastic reputation, but volume-wise, it was never a huge player in the world. But reputation-wise, I think the general consensus around the world is that Japan always made the best denims. Today, it's kind of a different situation. In the US, they're basically all gone. There's one or two that are making very small production, but all the big guys are gone. Cone still exists, obviously, but they don't do production in the US any longer. In Europe, they pretty much have all gone. There is one or two in Spain, a couple of them in Italy. Candiani, of course, is still there. Oyo is still there. Berto is still there. But France, Germany, Ireland, UK, Portugal, everything else is gone. Most of the denim mills today, the major ones, are all mostly in Asia, in China, Southeast Asia, Turkey, Egypt, of course, India and Pakistan. Central and South America, actually, technically still North America, so Mexico is still a North American denim producer of a fairly big size. South America, there's still decent production, but overall, I think it pretty much shifted mostly to Asia. Maybe you can share what happened in Japan over the last few years as well.
Okay, then what do you think the change going to happen in the future?
Well, the future we'll talk about in a second, but what did you see happening in Japan? Because there was a big growth in the 80s, 90s, 2000. There was a lot of very successful Japanese denim mills, and I think in a way they suffered some of the same issues that our mills in Europe and in the States suffered. They started getting a lot of competition from other countries where production was obviously more efficient, but definitely more affordable. And therefore, a lot of them are not as, unfortunately, are not as big as they used to be. Kaihara, obviously, is still producing in Japan, but I think they're mostly producing in China and Thailand now, if I'm not mistaken. Kurabo still makes some production in Japan, but also in Hong Kong. The other ones that you mentioned there, Showa, Shibara, Nihon Menpo, they're still producing in Japan, right?
Yeah, actually production of denim in Japan has been reduced a lot. But actually the mills survived right now. I think are in a good shape. And because of because of reputation of the Japanese denim is high level right now. And also we are not big anyway, not even big as one mill in India or Turkey. Whole Japanese denim production is not even up to one mill. This has two shades actually, because of the size is small. They are easy to survive, but at the same time, under current sustainability situation, all the production steps like yarn dye, weaving, or finishing are split into the different companies. Therefore, it is difficult to get certified. Like, for instance, organic cotton denim, like Turkish or Indian or whatever rest of the world company almost doing vertical, spinning, dyeing, weaving, finishing in one company. So they are big enough to get a certification of GOTS, GOTS. But in Japan, we have to go to Yandai mill, spinning mill, and weaving mill and finishing mill, at least for these mills, plus a small like a sizing company or yarn warping company. So there are 5-6 factories are involved to get one certified. You mean supply chain is quite complicated in Japan. And each company is small. That's because it doesn't have enough finance capacity to join to each certification. So that's why Japan is a little behind in the sustainability area. But that's a uniqueness of the Japan, and I don't think there are going to be any denim mill coming in a huge way in Japan. And hopefully this stays for next generations, actually.
So, yeah, I visited Japan Blue there in Kurashiki, and they're still making, they're weaving their own denim there. But as you said, it's small production. It's interesting because there's one area in Italy where you have exactly the same system. It's not for denim, but the area of Prato, which has been really big in textiles for many centuries, is organized exactly the same way. You have small companies that do the weaving, the small companies do the dyeing, small companies do the finishing and so on. And so you see all these small trucks traveling all around the city and all the different villages, taking either the yarn or the packages or the fabric for the different steps of the production. It's very artisanal, but it's some of the best fabric in the world is coming from this situation where you don't have a gigantic company, vertical company that does everything, because of course there's advantages and disadvantages in both. And the big company has a lot of advantages, but the small one is extremely flexible, and they can pretty much make anything they want without the big constriction of having to produce really huge minimum quantities and so forth. Your friends there from Idea Blue, they make some of the most incredible fabrics that I've seen in my life, and they can only do it because they don't have the limitations of a gigantic company. They could never do it in a big mill, never in a million years. So there's the good and the bad in both sides.
Yeah.
On the brand side, Japan still has a lot of really good brands. I think the same as, maybe you want to list some of them, but I think, again, it's the same situation that we had in Europe and in the US. We used to have a lot of really good brands, a lot of great jeans brands in Europe, and almost all of them are gone. And they're being replaced by large volume operators, which can offer much cheaper product and basically taking over the world. I think the biggest shock for me over the years in Japan was to see that the young Japanese people, which who before used to be so knowledgeable and very proud of the really expensive, unique jeans, and they would say, "Oh, these jeans are made with this fabric made by, I don't know, Kaihara, and they used African cotton, and it was spun in this way, and blah blah blah, and the jeans are $500." And then the same kids a few years later, they say, "Oh, look at these jeans, they're great, and I bought them from Uniqlo, and they cost $25." So I think there has been a big shift in a cultural shift, not only in Japan, but all over the world. And so big retailers, I think, have taken over the planet. That's pretty much what's happening today. And I think you put it there even on the list there, Uniqlo or fast retailing has definitely conquered the market in Japan. But you still have the 45 RPM, the Capital, Kato-san, of course, and Momotaro, and all these great brands are still there. They're expensive, but you find definitely a wonderful product.
Yeah, sure. So,
Future.
yeah.
Yes, we don't have a lot of time, but the future, well, we don't know the future. If I could tell the future, I would not be here probably. I would be gambling and retiring on the beach in Hawaii. The future, from what I see, is going to be not so different from what it is now, but I think we're seeing signs around the world of a bit of a shift where people are starting to feel a little bit tired of the fast fashion and all the mass market, and they're again trying to find the very special items. And I see in Europe, in the US, and in Japan, of course, that there are still small brands that are born and they try to make their own very special product. Very often they will only sell it locally, but now that everything is sold online, it's relatively easy to market your product everywhere. So globally, the online distribution will be the major player, obviously, in the future. And but I think there is still scope for small local production, for local market, and for people who can make specialized products. What do you think?
Yeah, actually, I agree. Basically, in a way, in a big way, giants are still keep on going strong, but there are like a small companies or even personal collection. The young boys creating good collection for this place. Actually, in this show, there's a marketplace. We are invited a few good good brands, small brands. Even one person, he is what shall I say? He is remaking the old jeans and decoration, putting quite a lot of decorations on that and selling on Instagram over like a $500, $1,000, something like that. So that's kind of we are expanding both ways. And the smaller way, I'm expecting more people to enjoy that way. Yeah.
I think it's true, and like I said, and like you said, that some of those products are expensive, but there are still people who like beautiful things, and if you see something really beautiful, I think you're still prepared to spend a little bit more. And you know, when now the big brands and the big retailers are complaining about sales not going as well as they want them to go, they always say, "Oh, because it's the price is too high, and I have to reduce my prices." They never really stop and think, is the product good enough for people? Is it interesting enough? I remember, sorry to share another story, but Levi Japan several years ago had the same problem, and they were facing much competition from newcomers, from new fast fashion, and they were thinking, well, now we are at a crossroad. We have two options. One option is we reduce all of our prices and we start making very cheap product. We try to gain our market share again, or we make even better product and we put more attention and maybe sometimes we raise the price and we give people what they want. And at the time, they made that decision and it worked really well. They really established themselves as the leading jeans brand in Japan.
Okay, we need to wrap up.
Yeah, sorry.
So, so I hope for the future, they're going to be high tech and low tech can both survive equally. Like small guys, big guys can survive. What do you
Yeah.
think?
With access to global distribution
Yeah.
thanks to online. Yeah.
Thank you very much.